Okay. What's up, guys? Jon Sintes Alex Rojas, Cutternation, Not My Strength, NorCal, SoCal. We come together to form Let's Win a Ball Game podcast. This is our podcast, which is our baby. Alex, and if you haven't been following for a while, Alex and I used to talk on the phone a lot because we connected on business and philosophy for a long time. And then one day we were like, why don't we just do this live and make a podcast? And so since then, I believe we were in episode, I think this is episode 30, my friend. Oh, look at the guy. Leave California. Absolutely not, my friend. You don't understand. You don't get it. Leave California. Even where you're at, man. Oh, man, we got to get you more south. You know what I mean? We're really going to work on.
If you're a baseball coach, California is the best market for you.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
Like Miami if you speak Spanish.
No, but listen, there's still a lot of rain there, right? You're not getting
there's still a lot of rain.
There's a lot of factors. A lot of factors. Anyway, so please like and subscribe. This podcast is available Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, anywhere. Search Let's Win a Ball Game podcast. I'll start off. We're real close. Let's see, we are about 21 days out from our college summer training. We are attacking this multiple ways. We're going with the youth side. Even though it turns into tournament season, you don't have to. You know, especially post Little League, I'd make an argument that if you were just consistent in live at bats, you probably have a happier kid in the summer, right? Maybe a little bit more of an efficient training schedule allows him to be a little bit happier because he gets to hang out with his buddies. But you also get physical activity and some dedicated discipline, right? And I think that's the difference of, you know, where a martial art like a jiu-jitsu or an MMA situation, even on a kid, because, you know, in MMA, there's not a lot of real fights, right? Like, you know, it's just it's a ton of practice, but that's the discipline. And in baseball, we go to practice and somebody tells us what to do. That's not the most efficient way to attack your discipline and your skill level. So that's what both Alex and I do. We really try to help people with that. And I'm down here in San Diego and he is up there in NorCal. So we have online training. Anything you need, hit us up. Website's coming along. Go ahead, my guy.
Check out the links in my bio. Lefty Swag Bats, TPC if you want to work with me in person. And I'm getting my website stuff together. I'm probably going to rebrand my website just because, dude, I put so much work into the old website and I got to eliminate a lot of stuff. And I just may just create a new one. I'll see how it works. But I am in the process of getting some live at-bats going at TPC. So if you are in the Bay Area and you're looking to hit off the hit tracks, because I don't know if there's another one within 150 miles of ours, right? So that's in any direction, right? If you want to get some live at-bats in a cage where you're going to have an air-conditioned facility and it's not going to be 97 degrees or you got to wait 4 hours to get 3 at-bats, we can get you 3 at-bats in 20 minutes. So that's our goal this summer, is to actually get guys a lot of at-bats. Jon inspired me. I don't know if it was the pandemic live at-bats or if it was the most recent ones, but he had some guy that had like 78 live at-bats before his high school season.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like, I think, very close to the exact amount of at-bats that you would get in like a 25-game high school season.
Yeah, and to go further, you know, we had some guys in college stay home and not play summer ball this year. And you only need 100 at-bats. So you can break that down. I mean, our guys were getting 10 to 15 at-bats for one Friday morning live AB that was we'd start at 10 and be done at 1:30. So that's not that long, you know? And we're going to be doing it even better this year. But I mean, that's 10 days. That's all you need, right? So even if you have in 2 months, right? That's twice a week. That's all you need.
Twice a week.
You know what I mean? That's so much more efficient and so much more less pressure, right? Than a college summer season. Oh, right.
It's like 4 at-bats, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm going to show up here for 4 hours and get 3 at-bats, do infield, outfield, blah, blah, blah. No. Like, if you were theoretically to do live at-bats at Cutternation for 4 hours, how many at-bats do you think someone would get?
Right.
right?
I
Like
mean, yeah, exactly.
a
I
lot,
mean,
a lot.
that's when we were going hard and I was throwing to the pros, if full distance, right? I got 150 pitches I can. They'd all joke, be like, "All right, here's my 8th at bat against Jon in one game."
Right.
You know?
Okay, so like let's play, because you and I think business and we think in money and numbers and stuff like that, but we also think in time, so you can get the most out of your players, right? So like, how long does a live at bat take? Like from first pitch, guy walking, like not the whole like event, but like a live at bat without a defense, without the whole ensemble that is a baseball game.
I
How
mean,
long does one live at bat take?
it really depends if you're swinging first pitch. It could be 15 seconds. Could be,
Right.
and it's probably closer to like a minute and 20.
Right. So one of the things that, again, you see on like Jon's feed, you see those YouTube videos where they're really collections. You have some total videos as well, but some of them are highlights. It's like, that's really how long an at-bat should take, right? Like for you to get the work in, right? So in 10 minutes, you can get you just had 10 at-bats. And then on the pitching side of things, in 10 minutes, you just had 10 batters to face. That's going through a whole lineup, right? But sometimes, like how you started the podcast, it just takes too long with the whole ensemble of what baseball is.
Yeah.
And you have to respect what it is. Because I was doing some fun research yesterday, and it's like the idea of bunts. Oh my God, I have to air this out. So the local high school team lost on a wheel play.
No.
They tried to run on a wheel play, and they throw the ball into center field with the winning run on second base. He moves to third base. Next guy gets base hit to the left fielder, which would have been in front of him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have scored, right? The bases would have been loaded, though. But this is again where we're talking about what Jon and I are talking about. Even if you run the wheel play, right? That guy is still not guaranteed to bunt. Because, like, when you see the movement on the field, it's like, oh, the third baseman's crashing, second baseman's going over, shortstop's going over. It's like, I might just swing here. Because I can just slash. I can always do that, right? And then the other team picked it out. And you could hear them yell, "Wheel! Wheel!" And they step off and they go, "Hey," they sniffed it out. And coach is like, "No, we're going to run it." And I'm like, please, just let him pitch, right? Like, because what if he strikes this guy out? Then you get a double play on one pitch and you're out of the inning. But, like, let this guy pitch to this guy. And if this guy's going to bunt, what if he pops it up? Like, let him pop it up. Just like, why don't you crash the corners and maybe just – I don't know. I'm just, like, thinking out loud.
Just throwing it out there.
I'm just talking about it in the way of just, like, yes, that's a situation that's going to win a game, but PFP wheels don't take care of that. It's the idea of this. Before that wheel play, that guy gives up a base hit and then hits the next batter, right? There is no wheel play that you're going to run that's going to be able to execute the stress of that scenario and being able to get out of that. There's no bullpen that you can do. What you can do is, again, have live at-bats, have inter squads with your teams and with your buddies where it's like, hey, if you give up 2 more base runners, the game's over. Stuff like that, where it's like maybe you're at Cutternation or maybe you're with your buddies. It's like, if 2 more guys get on, you're done. You lose. And that could be how you guys play the game, right? So I was just throwing that out there because, again, we talk about winning the game. And I got to get your opinion on it, right? Like, because you're a pitcher. So you're the one who's got to make that throw to second base and, like, read the daylight and all that stuff. So it's like, have you ever gotten anybody out doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How many times have you ran and gotten a guy out?
I could tell you it's probably 10%, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, the amount of throwaways, but are protected by a center fielder that knows what's going on. As long as that is there, then, it doesn't happen. But also, like, that's not the game. You know what I mean?
Especially because in this day and age, I feel like that play is really not in it anymore. Like, maybe in the 60s to the 90s that was in it. But, like, now guys are really strong. Like, young men are pretty strong, dude. I was watching a 16-year-old kid do reverse lunges and side lunges with, like, 155 on a barbell. And he's like, no, it's not that strong. I'm like, that's really hard, dude. Like a 16-year-old being able to do that, like there's a lot of people that are 30 that probably can't do that. You know what I mean? So that's a young kid that, again, he touches the ball, dude. A lot of these kids can hit the ball 95 plus in a game. Like, let him swing. Like, what if he hits the ball?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so typical, like high school baseball. Just taking all the, they're just trying to save their job. Yeah, exactly, Siri. Right? Siri doesn't get it.
And then, so we talk about this all the time. How are we going to beat those guys over there? Right? So now, and again, I love this team. I love the guys that are on there. I'm just observing and commenting. I'm not making any hate or any judgment at all. I'm just observing and commenting. They played like a 14 seed in the NorCal State playoff, and they lost, right? But this team bunted their faces off. They're like a scrappy, like lower income city that's got like black, white, Latino kids that all like play hard, head first slides, right?
Right.
And all I thought about was that's probably how that team has practiced winning all year. It's like, we're not going to hit bombs. Like, we're probably going to have to scratch a lot of runs, a lot of hit and runs, a lot of run and hits. And it just made me think, like, did the other team prepare for that kind of a game? Like, because when you play a team like that, it's way different. They do things that are like, can he do that? Is that in the rules? And the umpire's like, yeah, he can do that. It's like, how? Like, they read the rule book and they go, it says I can do this, but it doesn't say I can't do this, right? Like, that's the idea of you're paying attention to where the sun is on the field, and then okay, now I start throwing more breaking balls, right? Like, you're paying attention.
Gamesmanship. You know what I mean? Gamesmanship. And I watched the John Boy Media this morning with Wilson. It's exactly what I thought. I mean, all parties involved are guilty here, right? The umpire doesn't understand. First of all, the umpire's not getting it, right? Like, there's zero, like, the umpire's like totally falling for a move there. Like, that's what's messed up about it, because his eyes are up, his hands are out, but his foot's out, right? And so that, they have video on Kenley, and they know he doesn't look at the batter. They know it. You know what I mean? So I think it's turning more and more into the NFL, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
Well, that aspect of it was. But, like, just the concept of, like, this dude is not paying attention really to what I'm doing at all, right? Like, he's in his own world, which is hilarious that they observe that. And then it reminded me of semi-pro when Andre 3000 does the alley-oop, and then the referee just goes, foul, out of nowhere. And it was like, he didn't do anything wrong. That's kind of what it reminded me of. Like, Kenley kept looking around like, what are you talking about? And it's like, you're not paying attention to what's happening, right? And again, it's just like the idea of, like, you just got to pay attention. Like, stop being in your own world so much, which, again, I get it. Baseball players, especially relief pitchers, they're so funny. Like, I forgot who it was on the Dodgers for the longest time. He was a big righty that was like a sinker baller, kind of had like a rounder stomach, but he literally took like 60 seconds in between pitches. And he was like in his whole different world. He was barely playing the game. So that's all I think about that. I think it just makes you want to pay attention. But I got another question for you.
Okay.
So if you know, right, that you're playing a team, and we've talked about this before, that's taking for a strike, right? You're going to throw a first pitch strike, just right down the middle, right? What do you start to do when, and not in that situation, but what do you start to do when guys start to figure out maybe the axis of a certain pitch, right? Like, do you change maybe your location on that? Because one of the things I've been messing with my guys has been just the height of off-speed pitches, like off the home plate machine, like sequencing stuff, like curveball up, slider down, splitter down, and then fastball up, just like moving around and stuff like that. Nobody's figuring it out yet, right? Which is totally cool. But in a game, when like guys start to get on your stuff in terms of like your cutter, something that you can throw a bunch of different ways, is that when you start going to like the different arm slots and trying to throw the ball different?
Uh, no, I don't think so.
Like,
I think
do you try just like
maybe. I
one
mean, yeah.
color
I
to
mean,
start?
there's like a definitely layer of creativity that could happen. You
Right.
know what I mean? But it really depends on. I don't know. Like the more and more, the older I get, the more and more I'm like, well, dude, Rich Hill's kind of right. Like you just mess with dudes and just drop down and throw spinners sometimes just to completely change the approach angles of what's happening. So, I mean, I never really went that way with it, even professionally. Like I always felt like you kind of got to stay in line with what they want, you know? Because
Right.
the conversation is still the fastball's the hardest pitch to hit, which is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I can prove to you it's not. Like, I'll show you on my home plate machine. I'll put all 4 pitches on there, and I'm like, which one would you rather hit? Right? It's like, dude, the more I coach like the kids on the aspect of like yesterday we did like 45 minutes on the home plate machine of the sequence was fastball, slider, sinker, slider, curveball, right? Just a lot of spinning. I can't throw all that stuff. I wish I could. Man, it's hard. Especially how the home plate machine throws it. The sinker might as well be a splitter, like a fork ball. And then curveballs slow, sliders late and explosive. But it's the idea of like the spin is the same and the guys aren't doing like they're not playing the game with it. You know what I mean? Like I faced it the other day, right? And what I was doing was I know what pitch is coming, so I start pretending like I'm on the Astros. It's like, okay, like if I know a curveball's coming, I'm just gonna load up as long as I can and like almost drag my toe or my front foot. I didn't want to feel it get off the ground until I see the ball. But then when I saw the splitter, I was trying to be Tony Gwynn and like dive and try to just stay inside it and smoke it that way. But it took me like 2 rounds to figure out like, oh, I can't do that. I have to do this, right? So that's why I was asking you. It's like at some point, and again, I can only speak for a hitter, but I know that I've caught guys where I'm like, you threw that slider differently there than the last one. He was like, yeah, I felt like I needed to get a little bit more sideways on it or a little bit more up and down on it, right? So I was wondering, like, when you pick and choose to layer in creative gestures, like I'm going to make this one move a little bit more across the zone. I'm going to make this one run in on this guy a little bit more. You know what I mean? Like picking and choosing how to play your game because they can still know a 2-seam's coming. But if I make it run 5 more inches because I know how, it doesn't matter. You're still going to get jammed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or even the idea of a surprise, right? Like backdoor sinker, backdoor sinker, backdoor sinker, and then you just run it across right into their hands.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the illusion where it would start almost to that, but it would just be so surprising.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, Dustin May was doing a really good job of that, but apparently not too good. You know? He's hurt.
Dude, that Julio Urias guy. So I'm a Dodgers fan. I'm repping, right? I watched that guy struggle so much. And one of the things that, again, I see is like there's so much of, I feel like the Chat GPT baseball where it's like there's not enough of that. Where it's like, yes, you should throw a curveball, but like what type of a curveball should you throw here? You know what I mean? Like the sabermetrics don't always tell you like throw it in the dirt here. You know what I mean? Like that's still based on the judgment between the catcher and the hitter and the pitcher. You know what I mean? But you're good at that because I've literally watched you do it, not in person, but like I've watched you do it. Where I'm like, that one moved a lot more, and that was the same thing. Yeah. But you choose to do it, of course, when you choose to do it. So that's what made me curious about it. Is there like you see a guy swing on this cutter like that, and then you're like, oh, if I put a little bit more, there's no way he touches that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like there's like like in boxing, there's like you realize the guy can't stop it, or like any sport, right? Like you run a halfback counter, and the guy's running a 3-4, and you're like, this is ridiculous. Like my line gets to the second level every time. I can literally get 7 yards every time I run this play. You know what I mean? Like, that is what I feel about a lot of times the cutters, you know, especially when I was playing, like, I wasn't throwing four seamers. Like, there was absolutely no reason for me to throw a four seamer because, one, if anybody ever chased it, it was so late and it was probably spinning so hard that, like, if you went after the first one I'd say 9 out of 10 times I was locked in and it was at least mid thigh or lower. And so, like, mid thigh is a bait cutter, right? Especially when it just darts down, not flat. And like the amount of just two hoppers of shortstop on the first pitch, I'd be like, ha ha, ha. You know what I mean? Because he saw like, ooh, juicy, and then it just kind of had this little short slider shape to it. So, yeah, I mean, you feel it, you know. I got video of this poor human that's definitely, it's online. I remember we were in Bear Cruise and there was this guy, I had played against him a couple seasons before and I had like thrown a curveball and he just freaked out, like wasn't, you know, fell down. And I was like, that's weird. And I remember facing him in a start against this team and like I threw one and he just like turned away from it. He turned away and I'm like, I'm for sure bouncing it. And I must have bounced it, I don't know, 6.
Sorry, I guess my lawn care guys here now.
Yeah, I must have bounced it 6 or 10 feet in front of the plate, and he just full on waved at it belt high, and I was like, well, that was terrible. And so I come in that inning, and I go to my catcher and I go, we're throwing nothing but curveballs to that guy for the rest of I don't care if we walk him, but literally we're not throwing him anything but curveballs, and we struck him out all 3 times. Like the second time I bounced 2 in a row, he swung at the first 2, and then I was like, I'm going to go completely in reverse. Instead of bouncing again, I'm just going to land it for a strike. So I just changed the wrist angle a little bit. And he would, all right, well, that's it.
So I was just shooting my bow, and there's a funny thing about, like, your wrist angle and your finger pressure. Like, they can do some funny things.
Yeah. For sure. I don't even have a payload. Is there a bow in there? It's okay. Well, yeah. I'll go grab one. Hold on, I'm going to go grab a ball.
Oh, yeah. Anyways, what I would like to tell you guys while we're adjourned from Jon's presence, he talks about, like, spinning the ball a lot, right? Like, just getting a feel for pitches. I think you should do the same thing with just throwing a ball up and going playing fungo golf with your buddies and just learning, like, how am I going to hit this ball over the fence, around the net? Here we go. I was just talking about how you told me to spin the ball more, right? And like to get a feel for your pitches.
Yeah.
So go for it. Show us your finger pressure.
All right. So fastball, I've been really kicking around with finger pressure on fastball stuff. And then like we're seeing a big significance with like stiff wrist idea. So like you have to have some thumb pressure here. You have to have so the thumb pressure should actually be a little bit greater than the finger pressure of what you're pushing down. But if you watch my fingers, there's a thing called the hook, right? And so this hook keeps the fingers on the seams better, okay? Now, as far as what physics go, the more surface area that is on the ball, the more it spins, okay? So that's why you see sometimes in big leaguers where guys are like that on the fastball. So you get all this contact surface area on that right there. Now, the hard part about when you do that and the stiff wrist is to keep the balance of the ball in the fingers and make it roll off perfectly, right? Because the thumb may not be as easy to let go as maybe the knuckle of the thumb. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
And so like Scherzer even pulls it even further and gets the thumb completely out of the way on his fastball. And you can see it's just kind of hard to hold that, right? But it does create this like stiff-wristed, like I can launch this thing, right? But you got to make sure that you're holding it correctly, right? So on the curveball, it would actually be farther. So in the curveball, I try to make sure my thumb is as deep as I can on this thing, trying to connect my thumb and my birdie finger because that sets the axis of the center of the ball. Okay. Now, this is where the hard part about the word grip is, I think, misunderstood. It has nothing to do with the grip. It has everything to do with the spin axis of what you're trying to put out. So when I'm throwing my curveball, and you can see this beautiful four-seam line right here in this, I'm trying to spin it with both fingers from the center of the ball to go as fast as we can.
Do you keep your fingers that wide on that pitch?
Sometimes I'll push it up here. Sometimes I'll come right there. But that just feels good. Does that make sense? But I have more of like an 8 out of 10 on these two, and then an 8 out of 10 of that. And so I'm really trying to snack it on what it is.
So I remember you told me a while back, like there was a difference on like a two seam between the distance of your fingers.
Yeah, so there's that two seam, there's that two seam, there's that two seam, there's that two seam.
But what do those variables do?
So what you're looking at is when you create spin axis, okay, if you pull from the top side of the ball spins downwards, okay? So if you were to put your fingers together, you would pull from the middle of the ball, and that would create more flight and flatter run, no doubt. Okay. When you drop the birdie finger off the side of that, there's less pressure in the middle and more pressure on the top, so it would go down harder.
Huh. Interesting. See, that's some free game, guys.
And then you could do the same thing on a four seam. You could actually make a four seam run by wrist dropping, and then doing the same thing, pulling on the top of the ball of the four seam. That would make it go down. Pulling it from the middle of the four seam would make it ride, and then if you go on the outside, it would cut and spiral and stay flat. So don't do that.
Dude, that I actually have been doing a lot, like letting that ride a lot. Huh. Interesting. Super interesting. Because that's that layer of creativity, like just in those two pitches. It's like you just made one pitch into three, and you didn't even change your arm slot. You changed your finger pressure. And you just had three different pitches or variables of one.
Right. And I mean, that's what I saw with Maddox. Like I really wish there was a camera and you could see what his hand was doing in his glove and, you know, slow motion, see release points to watch spin axis, what he was doing, but we didn't have the frame rates to do that yet. But, you know, that dude was constantly messing with finger pressure to get things to do stuff. You know what I mean?
Probably the only way to really make the ball move as much as he did.
For sure.
Because then, in essence, based on the finger pressure, like you're kind of turning it into a blitz ball, like you're making sides, right? Because you're putting pressure on these certain sides of this ball. So you're making like because I know the blitz ball's got like those little tiny hexagons around the whole thing, right? And that's like where you can probably put your pressure and stuff like that to make that thing move, because there's all these places to grip, like you were talking about, like can make those. Like I had never thought about that, like trying to connect these. Because for the longest time, I was just focused on my middle finger being more of a hook than just trying to actually connect these two. So that's huge, even just for me and my BP curveball. Oh,
dude. And like in BP curveballs, if you go high school curveball and split the seam and then go index pressure here, that's an ephus. An ephus is index finger pressure, not birdie pressure. Because then like it pops out more. So you can like throw a super slow curve and have the same ripping arm action, but just the friction of the ball is different. So it would, and then it just doesn't make it. I got that from
Grinky.
Grinky, I got that. That's my guy. Grinky's like the same age as me, so it's always just like, well, you know, you still throw 97, so.
Yeah, it's in, but his one advantage is that when all you have to do is throw 97, you can do it.
For sure.
Not when you have to run a business. You know what I mean? That's
exactly. 100%.
If you simultaneously were like 97 as well as doing everything that you're doing right now, you would be like the David Goggins of baseball. You would be like, you would sleep like 2 hours a day.
That's what I do. I do that. He knows that.
Right.
You know that, don't you?
I woke up today. I did 100 pull downs with a 12-ounce baseball.
I know. Actually, I was thinking about now that we've opened that new spot, I got to go throw in there. Like I haven't thrown yet, so I got to go do some stuff.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
I know that you may have had these. Like there's certain fields where like you play catch and like the surrounding areas makes like a weird echo noise when you catch it.
Oh yeah.
The echo of a metal bat. Honestly, the more and more that I teach at a facility, I really want there to be like soundproofing borders on the wall to absorb. Yeah. Like that Louisville Atlas, that orange Atlas.
Right.
Oh my God, that thing is so loud.
By the way, that is a thing. So we put plywood on the walls, and like our gym is not nearly as loud as other, like, industrial housing that's aluminum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Brrr.
Yeah. It
Like Ray
definitely
Barrel,
is the same.
but I can't hear you now.
Yeah, I mean, the Cat 10 is really bad outside, right? I would say, but
Yeah.
like in our place, I definitely don't think it's as bad. So that's definitely a thing.
I would say the loudest bat that I have heard is that one. And then, speaking of actual bats right now, have you heard of it's actually, I think the 34-inch got banned from high school. It's called like the Stinger missile.
Oh yeah,
Have you
yeah.
ever heard of this bat?
Yeah,
Dude,
and there was a war stick bat that got banned too.
Warstick has some sweet bats. They've got like a tapered knob that's like perfectly built on metal bats. Like wonderful. It feels like because Axe made that new. They've got an Axe handle, then they've got like an intro Axe handle, which is like not as flared as the normal Axe. But whoever made this taper at Warstick on a metal bat, very good job. Very, very good job.
Very good job.
Very good job. I literally might buy a Warstick metal bat just to have it, just because those things are just nice.
I feel you.
I have one more question before we adjourn here. We're approaching college playoff baseball, where it is upon us, right? What are your thoughts right now on like I sent you that thing did I send you that Dallas Fort Worth like prep thing? Did I send you that?
No, I don't think
It's
so.
basically like a Mexican baseball academy, but strictly for just out of high school seniors and like freshmen and JUCO or stuff like that, or like
No.
gap.
I have seen it's the Gap Year University.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have seen that.
So
Yeah. Brilliant
with
idea.
all this stuff
Brilliant.
that's happening, right? I got to ask you, how important do you think it is for guys to take that chance on themselves versus staying out of school and hoping that things work out? Because here's why I bring that up. There's so many opportunities for like those guys that don't know what they're doing now. Like 10 years ago, I was, let's see, it's 2023. So 10 years ago, I would be a college sophomore, and I wasn't playing baseball at the time. I had quit. I wasn't doing anything. I was basically in a gap year. I was trying to figure it out, right? What are your thoughts on guys that are like that, like the transfer portal guys, the JUCO guys, like stuff like that? Like, should they commit to a school for a year, or do you think that they should take that gap year chance? Like guys that are trying to figure it out.
That's a good one. I'm gonna go hard at it. I'm not gonna be nice about it. So I think that there is a weird power trip and a power struggle with the colleges, the NCAA, and how that they treat the players and how they go at them. And when you open up a portal where people don't have to be punished for leaving, because like there's a fallacy that it is a family, and then when you sign with a D1 school, you'll be there for 4 years. It used to be they would take care of it and do the Cal Ripken, and everybody would do that. And if you committed your freshman year, you would get your opportunity for 4 years, right? But now, due to everything that's going on and transferring and how people are going and willing to sit out and do everything, then you have to do what's best for yourself. And so it's a year-to-year basis. And it's so short-sighted to not treat it that way, because as soon as you become a professional, that is exactly how it is. I signed 1-month contracts. It's the longest one I got. The shortest one I got was 2-week contract. Right? So we're not even, you want to get someone to commit for a year with their life and their money and their time, right? And they tried to make it 4 years, but if you go there and you don't play and you were told you were getting an opportunity to play, then you have to leave. And that's what, you get there and the coach says he's going to use all the buzzwords. We have all the tools for development and everything that's going to help you become the best baseball player possible. But yet, when it came down to it, you threw bullpens and live at-bats. You didn't even get an opportunity in a real game. And you're watching guys who did the thing in front of you, who already paid their dues 1, maybe 2 years of just like not playing and watching. And so even with myself, I made a decision that I wanted to play. I think that was one of the best things that I got from a junior college coach who's still a good friend of mine, who was one of my coaches that taught me so much, which was you could go to Florida State and walk on and roll the dice, right? And get the education, but the first 2 years are exactly the same content of what you would have in JUCO, but with smaller classes, and it's probably easier. So by going JUCO, you actually give yourself the best chance to, because they also do more than D1. They play a full fall schedule. The scouts are there. They're looking for stuff. These guys are actively trying to help people get out because it helps them, right? So, you know, I think it's as easy if you're the top 3 starters or you're the closer and you're the reliever, then you stay where you're at. But if you're not and you're fighting for a chance, you're fighting for one opportunity to get on the field, then like you should probably go somewhere else and figure out where they're going to like give you the real chance. Because I mean, you could go out and ball out, but also you could do what I did in indie ball and ball out all spring training and still get released.
Oh man,
you know, like just like, well, I literally could not have performed any better statistically in the game. I did everything I could do. You just don't know me. So then it's a completely non-performance based decision. So, you know, they're all salesmen. They always have been. They always will be, right? And there's not a lot of people that can speak on their experience and are willing to, because you know you don't want to burn bridges.
Yeah.
My bridge is burned, so I'll throw the whole thing under the bus. You know what I mean? Like it's
I actually have a good relationship with one coach, and he was the coach that I got to after all the bullshit.
Right.
And we butted heads a lot, but like we were very respectful about like he's disagreeing with me, I disagree with him, but that's about like where we stopped here, right? Where with the other coaches, it was like it's my way or the highway. Where he was just like, all right, bro, like I get it, I'm not going to change your mind. And I think that's, and again, we butted heads because I was like, I want to win more. Like it was in that idea. And he was like, we were in a spot where we weren't winning at the time. And he was like, well, I'm trying to get some guys at some opportunities that, you know, are going to be here in the future. And, you know, at the time I was being selfish and I'm like, fuck that. Like I want to win. Right. But also like what you said, like if you are trying to think about it as an investment and you're a business guy, right? It's like, these are investments. I gave that guy a scholarship. He's 18. Like, I got to play that guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's the guy that I think is going to help us win the next couple of years. And if you're a freshman that's not that, and even if you're at a D2, D3, transfer, dude. Like, I played at D2 schools that were like, I don't want to use the term commuter schools, but they kind of were like D2 commuter schools. Like the one that I went to in New Mexico, a lot of the kids were like, yeah, I live like 45 minutes away. I just drive in for class, then I drive back out, right? Like tons of people like that. There were only like 4,000 kids at the school. Same thing with the school in West Virginia, with so many guys live an hour away. But that means that the conferences are really close. That means that the other school is 2 hours away, and the other one's 2, and then the other one's 2, right? So it's like the opportunities are out there, and I don't know who it was, but I saw a guy, and this just like it reminded me of just like, again, you played Division I, JUCO, and then you went to go play professional baseball, right? I played JUCO, Division II baseball. This guy was like junior college, then he went to like a D2 military school, gets drafted in the 16th round, and then he ends up being on the big league roster like 2 years later, and he's still there, right? I forgot who it was. But could there be a guy that just bet on themselves and just made so many right decisions? Like, I don't know what the 16th round signing bonus is. It's less than 20 grand for sure, right? Then you're at a military school, D2, so you have to stand out so high and above everybody else, but also that means you're playing all the time. You're playing all the time, and you get drafted. So it's, you know, a guy maybe had a couple of small D1 offers, but he was like, those guys aren't going to get me better. He found the right school that he thought was going to make him better. He bet on himself. I was in the big leagues, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to to the Oklahoma states and the Oregon states and the Florida states and the Clemsons. You don't have to do that. You got to go where you're going to play and where you're going to develop.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, you have to play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that's shout out to my guy Berto going back on the grind after an injury. You know, he's in the Indy Bowl preseason runs with some guys and with the Black Sox, and they have there is a league that is over on the East Coast that plays in the mornings of one of the Indy fields on an all-turf field, and it's just like guys staying ready. And so it's like a little player pool for some of these leagues that are over in that area. It's such a smart move. But he has to be there. You know, you got to be over there playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was listening to Joey Diaz talk about, if you guys don't know who Joey Diaz is, he's like this hilarious comedian. Momo. Anyways, he had a tough life. Like at 17, he was homeless, right? And there was this instance where he was talking about, dude, I was sleeping in a rocket ship in a playground. And he was like, I was trying to just make it after getting out of jail and stuff like that. And he's a very famous comedian now. And again, baseball is not like that. But there's so many of these like guys that like, yeah, I go to play indie ball and I want to go play minor league baseball. And they don't realize like you are kind of on a cup of noodles kind of like diet. Like you're not eating the best of food. You're not sleeping in the best of apartments. You know, you're not living in the best of places because you're not making great money, right? And that's why it's really important to like make good decisions, because you don't want to end up in a bad spot, which is why it's like, I'm a big fan of like, take that scholarship sometimes, right? Like you can save up money, right? It's just an idea of like, you're wanted somewhere if that's a part of the dream. And that's just my 2 cents on it. But like hearing some, like the minor league guys, what did their new collective bargaining go to? Like $32,000 a year, something like that, right? It's like if you want to have a family and kids and you're not making it after like 2 years in the minors, like, dude, you gotta make good decisions on your way to those points. You know what I mean? I think they were making like 25 or like 24 before that, which is like $2,000 a month. Dude, that's nothing. That's nothing, dude.
Yeah.
It's like you got to think about that's a part of the dream. And it also helps to know that you can go play in Korea and make a couple million as well.
League minimum in Korea is $85K. And
that's pretty
and in I do believe you get full contracts for the year, because I had a buddy of mine go over there. So even if you get picked up and you only play a month and they release you and send you home, you still get your full salary. That's why dudes go. But they only allow like 4 imports per team. I think that's what they mean. Yeah. In Mexico,
but then you still got.
In Mexico, it's a 6, and then in Japan, I don't think there's a limit. But they obviously like there's like unwritten rules. You can see it all the time. You know, like Adam Jones went over here and hit like 41 home runs or something like that.
Yeah, dude, how awesome is that?
Yeah,
like
and like doubled his major league salary, which is like, there's an example of a loyalist, right? The Cal Ripken guy, right? He's got 2 years left in his career, and he goes to Japan and doubles his money for his family. Like, that's messed up. But that's where he played for the Orioles. He's playing for an organization that's not trying to win, not trying to spend money.
It's not for his family. He just made generational wealth. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm going to go hit 41 bing bongs, and then I'm going to make maybe like 80 million. Yeah, I'll make like 80 million.
Yeah, we got to get a hold of that guy. That guy's a San Diego dude. You know what I mean?
Anything else you want to say before we end it?
No, why don't you sign us off?
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, like and subscribe. Let's win a ball game. This is Jon's Instagram, so follow Jon, follow myself, follow our podcast page. It is let's_win a ball game. And one of my favorite things to do in my past free time, just watch Jon's live at bats. I'm really into the live at bats right now, so really get into those. He's got tons of discounts, tons of deals. Click on his links. I got a few. Go into my Instagram, check them out. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Jon, awesome job today.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. You're the best. It's really good. Like and subscribe. Check out both of our online programs. A lot of cool stuff coming down the pipe.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy your Friday.
Yep.